everyone. It is Monday, November 10th. We are in week 2 of the college basketball season. You're here at Her Hoop Stats. I'm Jamie Steyer Johnson, and we've got a treat. We've got the man behind the curtain. He's popping back out for the first time with me. So very much a treat. We've got BMac on with me today, and it's good because now everyone gets a little bit of a taste of the things that we all allude to with our pre-show talks, and now we just get it right here in the real deal.
Yes, I usually get you guys ramped up and started and making jokes and laughing and get you guys good and rolling. And then I back off and let y'all have it.
Well, the good thing today, BMac, is that my kind of number one discussion here, I think, is something that you have a good bit of perspective on, something that I would venture a guess you may have a couple of thoughts, as someone who has worked in sports information, someone who's kind of been all over in the media landscape. And so this morning I was thinking, how do I phrase this? Because I am someone who tends to have strong opinions, a little bit. And I don't want it to be a rant. I don't want it to be a tirade. It is not that serious. And I don't, I want to be a little bit more measured. And so I have decided I have a few qualms with some aspects of what I've seen just to start this college basketball season as far as media goes. And I should also have the disclaimer, for anyone who doesn't know, that I have strong opinions in general, especially
Mhm.
regarding sports media. I literally went back to school and am getting a master's so I can teach, because if you have an issue with something and you just sit there and complain, I mean, you're welcome to do that. But if you can do anything to change it, that gives you a little bit more opportunity, a little bit more credibility. So I am trying to change things from the inside. Yes, I do have some qualms, as our bottom ticker says, and so I have them summed up, and that means that I'll probably still talk for 40 minutes before I let BMac get a word in edgewise. But I have three kind of bullet points here. Number one being, if you are a broadcaster, and I said this on my social media this weekend,
Mhm.
you do not have to be the foremost rules expert in your sport. However, if you are covering a game, if you are covering a league, it will do you a lot of good to have the league specific rules down. This weekend, I was watching a game, and it's a little thing, but there was a replay on a tight block charge call, and one of the broadcasters gets into it. Oh, are they outside of the restricted area? Blah, blah, blah. And instantly, like, the switch flipped, and I'm just turned off. I'm like, that's it. It's not a rule in the women's game. It is in the men's game. It is not in the women's game. And so there's few things that will make me side eye someone or take someone's credibility, like having just your rules not just wrong or like not knowing it, but referencing something from a different league just tells me you didn't do your homework.
Right.
So that's number one. Number two, watching a different game on the Four Letter Network, halftime comes. And naturally, you need something to fill the halftime. Generally, the streaming only broadcasts don't do like a halftime show. That's not really how those go. So they have a pre-recorded show. It was the men's show.
Oh no.
It
Mm.
was fully just the men's basketball show. Not just we have a general basketball show, and maybe even we have more of our time dedicated to the men. No, it was fully just the men's basketball show. And so, given the fact that I was kind of running around, so I don't generally sit there and watch half times,
Right.
I will say there is a chance that that was a mistake. I don't think it was. I think it's much more likely that they just don't have a women's halftime show, at least yet. And that's crazy. I'm watching a women's game for a reason. I didn't post this because I have a little bit of an idea of the stuff that's going to create discourse that I don't really want any part of, and this probably would have. But to be honest, I could not care less about what's going on around men's college basketball. I don't have the time to follow it. I follow women's basketball very closely. I'll watch a couple men's games. That's about it. I would probably sit down and watch a women's halftime show. There's a lot going on, especially to start
Mhm.
the season. I was not given that. So that to me was wild. I mean, when you have a pre-recorded show, you could use that over and over and over again. It is simply not that difficult to have one available.
Yeah, and I don't. I was like you. I wasn't really watching half times because yesterday the games were, kind of all over the place and so
Mhm.
good. When halftime came, I just switched to another game. I was like, I'll come back to this one. And yeah, so I didn't catch that. I would have been just as appalled as you were because yeah, I'm at the point where I always jokingly say I'm at the point in my fantasy football season where I quit paying attention to my team, and
Mhm.
luckily I won both games yesterday. But yeah, I quit paying attention because it's women's basketball out there, and
Mhm.
that's what I'm about. That's what I have been about since I was born. It's been in me, and that's all I'm watching right now. So
Right.
give me that. Find a way. Record. Get Chene and Andrea, and let them record some L. Get them to record something that you can, like you said, play over and over again for
It's like
each halftime.
7 minutes of
Yeah,
content. You have
it's not
commercials in there.
it's not hard at all. Yes.
So that kind of blew my mind. And this was like the nightcap game, and so there was nothing else on at the time, and so I didn't have time to like switch it, or I didn't have an opportunity to switch it to something else. So for once, it rolls into halftime, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, please tell me this is not what they've been showing at halftime of every women's game all week. So that was certainly something. And then this is kind of those are minor grapes, and all of these are fairly minor. But my big thing that I think is always worth at least discussing to start a season is polls and rankings. And I I think a lot of it gets way overblown. As we know, when you start a season, you don't really have a whole lot of metrics to go on. You're still fleshing things out. It depends on your level of competition. Like you can't put too much stock in rankings and polls and things like that. But if you're taking part in it, you should take it seriously. And so I will start by saying that there's a lot of things I would say you could not pay me to do. I would do a power rankings if I was paid, but I would not do it just for the fun of it. I think that being a single person putting together rankings is you're never going to make everyone happy, and it
Right.
all falls back on you. Like there's a reason why the polls that are actually used widely in the AP poll and the coaches poll are composites. Like that's just how, first of all, that's how like statistics works, is you have to get a wider range because that accounts for the fact that no one can know everything, watch everything, follow everything. You have to get a wider range. That said, I think that it's tough when, again, I'm not calling people out by name. There are power rankings out there that will have certain disclaimers or metrics or emphases. One of them being, I'm focusing on teams that had tough schedules, that played real competition, and then dropped Baylor out of their top 25,
Yeah.
which I didn't drop Duke out of there. So you're ignoring the head to head, and then Duke dominates a lower program. Baylor struggles against a lower program, but head to head, Baylor wins. And that's not like the only kind of mismatch within that group. And so I think for me, the hard thing is that then it comes across as like rage bait or engagement baiting. And a lot of the people that do these are good reporters. And so I don't think that, especially this one, I don't think it is engagement baiting. Like, I don't see that from this person. But at a certain point, it's like you gotta pay attention to what you're saying and what you're doing. And it then, because it just shifts the narrative, it shifts the discussion away from the actual basketball.
Mhm.
And I'm sick of having so many reasons to focus on things that aren't actual games.
Yeah, I have something similar to that. Now you're talking Baylor and Duke, which are two perennial top 25 teams, or somewhere in that mixed power
Mhm.
conference teams. I was having this conversation with my dad the other night, who's a former coach, and he's retired and everything. And we were watching Richmond and Texas, and
Mhm.
Texas wound up winning that game pretty handedly. Was in control the whole game. Richmond had a guard that fell and got hurt, got bloody nose, concussion, all that. Um, so last year, Richmond lost to Texas at home by 11. I told him, I said, I believe that's one of the main factors that got them in the tournament when they
Mhm.
lost to George Mason, because someone looked at that head to head that they played well with a top four team at the time.
Mhm.
So yeah, you have to factor in the head to heads when you're doing power rankings. How can you not? And like you said, you don't think it's somebody. This person was probably not trying to rage bait or anything, but when they do stuff like that, that's what it looks like. So I
Mm.
agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
And that's the other thing, is that's a great point, is that it's not just the head-to-head outcome, it's the actual way the game goes. Like,
Hmm.
I completely understand if you have an argument for, well, it was really tight, and so I'm gonna have, even if you still have Duke ahead of Baylor in your power rankings, I'd be like, all right, sure. I mean, I can genuinely see that, where if you say first game of the season and it was really tight, and I have this reason, that reason, that reason. I mean, I would still say I don't know that I for sure agree, but that's because I haven't watched all of the game both of the games that these two teams have played. But to drop someone several spots after they win, and then to raise some other teams, I mean, 8 plus spots that did not play competition that first week. It's like, then don't put the disclaimer of, like, you're focusing on the teams that played actual competition. Like, just throw it out there and call it a day. Like, at that point, like, just do it, because otherwise it very much is just like, well, you're saying this, but you're not doing it. And that's just a general pet peeve. Like, it just, I don't know. So those are kind of my qualms. And part of that, as well, as I said, polls to start the year. I try not to pay attention to it, because who, like, there's a lot of time to go. The thing I will say is preseason polls do have an impact on how things go over the course of a season, because perception really does matter.
Hmm.
But that doesn't have anything to do with power rankings. Like, that's just entertainment. So that's, I try to ignore it. But when discourse starts coming across my timeline, I'm like, how about we talk about the many, many great games that were out there? And so I will also, I will close kind of my qualm segment by saying, I would love if people would share their personal pet peeves with media, because first of all, it's a really good exercise for me to see what, like, people that don't live inside the media
Yeah.
notice and are bothered by. Hey, I could talk about it with my classes. That'd be great. So do a little bit of free work for me. No, but uh if there's something that's been burning you up, please do share. I really enjoy it. BMac, anything that you saw besides, we talked a little bit about polls here. Anything that you saw to start the year, like, I don't know about that, or were you just bouncing around to too many
I
games?
To be honest, yes, I was. I was in between. Thank God for the ESPN app because I have YouTube TV and we're not really with
Mhm.
ESPN right now.
Not on good terms right now.
No, no. So, think got that unlimited plan on the ESPN
Yep.
app. It's working out real nice. So I've been bouncing around. I watched so many games yesterday. My head was about to explode. So yeah, so nothing really, media wise to bring to that part of this conversation at this point. But yeah,
That's good. That's good. No, I will definitely good that, like, I mean, we are seeing games spread out. BMac, we could watch several games consecutively coming out of WNBA season. What a breath of fresh air.
yes.
Where it's not that, all right, I have to figure out a way to watch all of these at once. There's obviously games going on at the same time, but when you can have a game that could fill your time at halftime, where like generally you're not having to sit there and watch whatever they put up during halftime,
Mm.
hallelujah.
Who knew it was possible with more teams? There you
with
go.
with more teams, yes, absolutely. You spread it out a little bit, and I mean, the first couple weeks of the season are great because we get day games too. That's always so much fun. Like, I love being able to just tune in to watch someone that I probably wouldn't have watched otherwise, and just seeing, all right, what's going on over here? Like, what are they up to here? Like, right now we're recording, and Presbyterian and Elon are already playing for the day. Like, that is that is peak college basketball. I absolutely love it. So we've seen a lot of really solid games so far. Obviously, we have quite a bit to go. But the one that we were discussing here before we started recording that we for sure wanted to hit was Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee had a week, uh, like many teams did, where when you start out with legitimate competition, it is sometimes really tough to get back to form afterwards. It's tough to get into the first week of the season, I think, and get off to a really strong, consistent start, regardless of who you're playing, because you're just changing your whole routine. You're kind of used to the practice thing. You have to get used to playing in an actual game. You have to get used to that turnaround from one game to the next. And so we did see a number of teams that had maybe a tough game, like had actual high level competition in their first game, and then struggled a little bit in their second. And one of those, as I said, being Tennessee and UT Martin. Tennessee ends up pulling it out 72-61, but it was not necessarily the most inspiring performance that we could have seen out of the Lady Balls.
No, it was not. And like I told you, I mean, I was kind of locked into a little bit of that game for most of it. Especially when I saw that UT Martin came out, and I think at one point they were shooting 83% from beyond the arc. Um, yeah, they caught fire, and you would think the way Tennessee plays, where it's hockey style, it's 5 in, 5 out, and I think that wears teams like UT Martin down. I think ultimately that's kind of what happened.
Mhm.
Um, but like I was telling you before we started, Tennessee plays Belmont this week. Belmont can shoot too. If Tennessee comes with that kind of a laissez-faire way of playing defense, it could be some problems for them.
Yeah. Oh, Belmont is a very solid team. Like, they're,
Experience,
again,
experience,
they are
experience.
experienced. That is, I mean, that's one of the best things that a quote unquote mid major can do, is maintain that level of experience. And it's becoming so much more difficult year after year. So when a team and a coach and a program is able to maintain that consistency and that experience, first of all, that should really tell you something as a fan, as an opposing coach, because I was talking about this week. If you're a like power four program, maybe on the lower end of the budgets and the spending, and you want to talk or complain about the portal and NIL, try saying that to the face of any mid-major coach, because you have players that are either so dedicated and so committed to you that they will pass up, I mean, generational money, like
Yeah.
tens of thousands of dollars that they are being offered by other schools to stay there. Otherwise, you have those situations. And if they do decide to go and get paid, especially considering just what that can do for people, and if you're someone who's probably not going to have a lot of opportunity to play professionally, what do you say to that? Like, how do you say, no, you should not do that? And I hear that, I see that from mid-major coaches all the time of like, yeah, we'd love to keep our players, but like if we don't have these resources, what are we supposed to do? Like, we care about our players as people too, so it hurts. But yeah, if you're being offered that kind of money, you take it. Like, that makes sense. And so when you're able to build a program where people still feel like I'm getting a lot out of this, like I'm being developed as a person. Maybe they feel like, oh, they are positioning me where I have a chance to make it professionally. I feel like that's a big thing with Fairfield, who I'll obviously continue to talk about, where they have those connections to the pro game. They have that experience. The coaching staff is very committed to their school. The school is very committed to uplifting and developing the women's basketball program. Like, that is very obvious. They're all in on developing that. And so they're able to keep their players. But there's so many opportunities that if you're bringing people back, I mean, you're doing not just something right, you're doing a lot of things right. And Belmont is doing a lot of things right on the court, off the court. I am fascinated by what we may see against Tennessee.
I mean, that type of mid-majors team is the ones that I really love watching. Like it's
Mhm.
Belmont, Fairfield, Richmond, in your neck of the woods, Drake, another
Yes.
good one who has consistently kept their players around. And you bring up Fairfield. Let me just say this: prayers up to Blake Dudonis. I hope your shoulder is okay because that was the most exciting celebration of a challenge going right that I've ever seen in my life. And yes, I'm clipping this and we'll be tagging Blake in it. Yes, but prayers up for Blake
Oh,
because
man. That
that was yeah,
killed me.
I was right there with him. I was fired up with him.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And it truly is so relatable, because it's like, is it maybe like the most consequential thing? No, but if you're the one that's saying, "Hey, review this,"
Mhm.
that's a weight. Woo! Like, you want to get that right. You want to get that right, and especially like with the challenges being so new, like it. I get it, man. We gotta like tally the record on that one, because we talked about that during the WNBA season all the time. It's like, hey, what are people's records on these challenges? So, uh, but
Better 12.
let it be known that Fairfield is off to a hot start.
They're on fire with the challenges. Yes.
And again, like on a like genuine note, you see that kind of passion, and like it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but like it is that intensity. It's no wonder that players want to be there, that players want to stay
Absolutely.
there.
Yes.
That and the dogged determination to ensure that the Roadrunners are called Roadrunners. Like, I feel like anytime someone doesn't use the term Roadrunner, it's like that reaction gif or like that meme of "Come outside, we're not gonna jump you." Like, that is
Bring it on. Yes.
I will never address one of their players incorrectly. I will tell you that much. Like I said, I try to avoid that smoke. So all that to say, yes, Belmont, Tennessee, gonna be really good. Also mentioned this last week, but continue to stay very excited about the schedule that Fairfield has put together, because so tough to schedule well. as a as an elite, like mid
Mhm.
major. Um, this is a little bit away, but the fact that they're playing Richmond,
Oh, I can't wait,
love that.
man.
Absolutely love that. That is very, very exciting. And we're getting good games early. We're getting good games consistently. We're getting maybe some slightly unexpected results, maybe just challenging perceptions of teams. And that also goes back to placing a lot of stock in preseason polls where at a certain point you just got to roll the ball out there and see how people look. Point uh point being teams like Southern Cal.
Ooh, yes.
A lot to obviously consider with Juju out and then having transfers out. I also didn't know what to expect. And
Yeah,
what I did expect was worse than what we've seen. Like that I will be completely honest. Like I did not anticipate the level of competition we were going to see from Southern Cal so far. And a good bit of that is probably that Jazzy Davidson, I did not know your game. Like that is very impressive to have a freshman able to go out there. And I obviously know a little bit about impactful freshmen. Like I've seen it. And uh to have someone who is prepared and has that composure. And also when there was a lot of I think rightful at times over the top, at times rightful critique of USC and how they worked around Juju and sometimes the extreme reliance on her. But she's out. You do have several very, very capable players, and they are showing that they can have a little bit more of that balance, a little bit more of that team play. We've talked about this, especially again in the WNBA season,
mm,
teams where when you have someone go out, there's something to be said for developing without them. It is in no way, shape, or form a good thing for Juju Watkins to tear her ACL. But if you can maintain any level of consistency from this team for next year, it's scary hours because we know what she's capable of. And all of these players that are here now are in such a great position to develop. Where if you bring her back alongside a second year Jazzy Davidson, alongside a Kendi Smith that has stepped into already such a tremendous leadership role, and you go down the list, like that's really big. And so there's a lot to come for Southern Cal. They obviously have a lot of games. They have a lot of great challenges.
mm.
They've already played NC State. They're about to play South Carolina. They go to Notre Dame. They play UConn, and then they play the Big Ten. We're gonna know a lot. We're gonna know a lot about them real fast.
Yeah, like I told you before we got started, I was taking notes during this game because I knew this would probably be one of the games that we talked about because it was just so competitive all the way through. And I was fully prepared to come on here and just wax poetically about USC and I mean about North Carolina State, and they finally in the first time in franchise and in school history where sorry I'm WNBA on my mind school history where they won their first two games against two top 25 opponents. And I was gonna joke like I told you and say they would have done that before if K.L. didn't have that Van Chancellor and Andy Landers way of scheduling back in the non-conference. But you know what? I'm ready. I come on and I can flip it to I can be jazzy real quick. And just in the two games they played this year, Jazzy Davidson has shown us that she's able to hit from the outside in the first game and just jumper after jumper. In this game, she proved that she could take it off the dribble. So
Mhm.
she's adding something to for people that didn't like you said you didn't know much about her coming into the season. She's adding to that for everyone that is like that who didn't know her name and didn't know what she was about. Each game, she's adding something different. I can't wait to see what she does next.
Yeah, it's definitely really exciting, and again, against really high level competition. I think one of the toughest things for freshmen is adjusting to they can have great skills and they can really know the game, but it's the physicality and just especially like your physical maturity. Like as a woman, you are not going to be able to really start hitting your stride generally and reaching even close to what you're capable of physically until later in your career. Like you simply can't come out of high school and put on the kind of muscle that you're going to be able to later on. And Jazzy is certainly fairly slim. She's a great athlete, but I think that especially just considering what we've seen in Southern Cal, like some of the development we've seen physically from, Juju and across the board, that's something that okay, if you're coming in like that, wow, the ceiling is very high. And to also be aware of that, where like she's not going in and trying to bowl people over. She's saying, "All right, I know when I have maybe a stronger defender, I'm going to use the quickness. I'm going to use the agility." She knows that okay, if I've got maybe a shorter defender, if I've got more of a guard defending me, I'll go. I can shoot over him. Like I'm long, and having that recognition is also so important and usually takes some time to develop. And so we're seeing that from a number of young players from a number of teams. It's certainly very very exciting over there. I want to circle back really quick on a point I made with Tennessee, which is there are some teams that had challenging starts to the season and then had maybe a little bit of a drop off as far as production goes. One of them being Baylor, went out and did beat Duke overseas. I can't first of all, I can't fathom going over and then coming back and playing. So I would be willing to kind of deal with really whatever you get out of out of a game after that. Little bit of a drop off against Lindenwood. Ended up winning by 13. Just not nearly the same performance I think that we saw against NC State as far as consistency goes. But what was the same is Talia Scott going
Yep.
off. If she's going to score 25 plus points a game, they're going to win a lot of games. That probably goes without saying. I do think a lot of their potential depends on getting more from other sources. And we haven't seen a ton out of Dariana Littlepage Bugs yet this year. We know what she's capable of.
Mhm.
Very, very gratifying for Bella Fauntleroy to have a good second game against Lindenwood because I've been like beating that drum for years. She is so much more capable than we see a lot of the time. And part of that is because she's a very good defender. And then sometimes we see a little bit of a drop off on the offensive end. They have starters that are capable. I think Steyer Johnson also a transfer that flies a little bit under the radar. She wasn't like a major name at Oklahoma. She was a consistent contributor, but she's gonna be really big for them. Their bench, they definitely need to figure some stuff out there. They have players that are capable, but if they don't really get any meaningful production off the bench, they're gonna have some pretty significant struggles. So I'm not like ringing any alarm bells over the Lindenwood game, but I am saying, all right, we're seeing a pattern here of Talia Scott goes off and everyone else goes along with it. That's only gonna get you so far.
Yeah, and they have you know, another test coming up with UNLV. I mean, that's gonna be another good team to see what Baylor's made of against, and that's on Friday, I believe. Yep, Friday.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, that's the thing is that it's hard because a lot of the mid majors you don't get as much credit for playing them. Like some of them have built up enough of a name where people are at least aware of UNLV. People are generally aware of Richmond because they start out the season ranked and stuff like that. But it definitely shows good awareness to say, all right, we need to challenge ourselves. We need to go up against different styles of play. That's definitely one of the biggest necessities of a good non-conference schedule is seeing different styles of play regardless of the level that the team's at. And so I definitely am very, very interested to see how they go against UNLV. That's a team that certainly is capable of scouting. And so I wouldn't necessarily anticipate that we're going to see a Talia Scott 30 bomb against UNLV. If we do, they probably win. But they're they're going to have to figure out a little bit more soon.
This is one thing I want to ask for, and I asked this as a joke, so take it as that. Um, your Iowa State Cyclones, your mom and them, they couldn't get 100. What 99 was the limit yesterday?
Uh, in a semi-pro when they have to give out corn dogs for hitting 100. I
Yeah,
it's just it just kind of permeates.
you're
There's
all
a
yelling for
version
Coach,
to the 100 point
yelling for
mark.
Coach Finley. Put that last five in. Go on, get them young ones in there.
Well, that's the thing, BMac.
They
That
just
was the whole fourth quarter.
yes, it was. They yeah, Iowa State's loaded. I know you don't want to sound all because you have a little bit, you have a bunch of attachments there, but they're, if they're not in the top 10 this week, I'm upset. I'm gonna have
they're
qualms the next time I come on.
they're doing some things. Look, and I like I said, polls are polls, and especially like there hasn't been a very high level of competition yet, and that is fully acknowledged. Went kind of a different direction with scheduling this year. There will be some solid games coming up before too long. Like we said, I mean, Drake and you and I both are struggling a little bit, are down a little bit based compared to what we've seen in the past, just because when you lose players like Katie Dinnebeer and Maya McDermott, respectively, like, yeah, that's gonna be tough to replace. But you tend to just throw that out the window in those in-state games. And so that's gonna be a test of some kind. And then, there'll be game against Iowa, they'll play Marquette, they'll play either Indiana or Gonzaga. So like we'll at least see something there. But to start the season, certainly pretty solid, I'll say. And especially, you get a freshman in there like Reese Beatty. She's tough. She is
Yes.
so tough. She works so hard. I love it. Jada Williams. I had to post this morning because I said I don't feel like I emphasized this enough on our broadcast yesterday because she ended up in foul trouble and like barely played after the first quarter or so. Jada Williams set a new career high in assists yesterday in 16 minutes.
Wow.
8 assists in 16 minutes. And it is not always super difficult to record an assist when you're feeding the ball inside to Addie Brown and Audie Crooks. However, when teams are always fronting and sending in the backside help, and the highlight that I reposted was Jada a full 5 feet behind the 3-point line and dropping the lob directly into Audie's hands for a layup. I don't care if you have any defense. To drop that on a dime is not easy. So definitely, I mean, excited for her because she's just been talking about how it's good to be playing, good to be a little bit loose and all that. But yeah, it's a good start. I just always am ready for all right, what's coming next? When do we start seeing this build up? When can we start calling it consistent? Like 3 games is good. 3 games is not bad at all. But I'm not an oversell kind of person, but it's definitely been a very fun, a very strong start to the season in Ames and
I,
hopefully
I was
continues.
I was already excited about Jada Williams, and I fell in love with her even more. And like you said before, I'm the one that's behind the scenes doing all this for the podcast. So I see when people make comments or share stuff, and I see
Mhm.
everything they say. When we did our Big 12 preview, I think Cindy and Christy were the ones on the. I think that's who was on it, but
Mhm.
they talked about Jada coming in and what she would bring to Iowa State and how much better she was gonna make them. And I clipped it, I put it out, I tagged her in it. She reshares it on Instagram and comments. She said, "Well, they did have Emily Ryan before," and I went, "See, that's why I love you. You bring up
I
stuff like that."
mean, it's so genuine, and I mean, she talks about, like, Emily is in her ear constantly as a grad assistant now, like, Emily is mentoring her and Reese Beatty so well, and, like, they just have such a strong respect, and, like, I mean, Jada talks about playing against Iowa State and how, like, you could see
Mm,
just the team chemistry and how that obviously makes it attractive, and, like, no one is sitting there waiting to see her engaged with, general content. Like, she has a lot of, things going on social media. So it's not like you're sitting there like, oh, if she doesn't repost it, who does she think she is? But
right.
to actually engage with what people are saying, to pay attention, and then to give credit to the people who were there before, and not even your teammate, like someone who was there when you were not there. It's just like it shows she gets it. Like she genuinely does get it. I was joking yesterday on the broadcast because she got two terrible offensive foul calls in the first half when she was off to a blistering start. Fortunately, doesn't really matter in that game. But I said, well, she's expending all the energy she's not using in the game on celebrating every play everyone else is making because she's up off the bench. She's got a whole routine for every person. Like it's genuine. Like it was very. It's just cool to see. We also had a different perspective. We had some uh technical difficulties going into our broadcast yesterday, so we were up on the concourse across from the benches when usually we're right next to the benches. So I got a great view of all the things that I don't usually see on the bench. And so that was really, really fun to see as well.
So here's my next question. Because I had switched to another game. No offense to you guys. By the time they got to
No,
this
that's
point,
that's fair. That's fair.
but when 67 was hit from the
Oh yeah.
concourse, did we get our?
Oh yeah. It was a good one. It was not quite the level of Kids Day game,
Ah,
but yeah, there was like a quick little burst. I think it was more. I was watching another game later, and it was loud.
mhm,
It was the loudest cheer that anyone had. It was yeah. I don't think that's going away in the
no.
near future.
No, my sister is an elementary school teacher. She has 2 young kids of her own, both at elementary school age. So I have shared with her every time I've seen another Kids Day clip of six, and I think she blocked me on Instagram.
It's like I can't do this at work in
Yeah,
here.
yeah, because she hears it all day long.
Yeah, it's a good day to it's a good time to be out of the like middle school environment and not
Mhm.
have that in my ears constantly. I knew too much about too many trends I didn't want to know about. I shouldn't have known about. I'm
Oh,
detoxing now.
I had the pleasure of interviewing Courtney Simmons, Grambling's head coach,
Mhm.
on my podcast, and she told me now she has 2 young twins of her own, so but they're not, they don't know the 6, 7 of it all yet. But she said when they did their Kids Day game, I guess she was at SMU. They were at SMU's Kids Day game.
Mhm.
And she said when 67 hit and that place went nuts the way it did, I didn't know what was going on. I had to
Mhm.
she said, "I'm asking my staff, the players on the bench, what happened." She thought
Yep.
maybe they broke a record or something.
Yep.
She said it got so loud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Coach Fence said the same thing. Like, I feel like that's gonna be
I
on
bet
some of
you
these conference calls because he's like, "Yeah, my granddaughter after the
yeah.
game was like, Grandpa, you guys got 67." He's like, I didn't know what she was talking about." I think that's gonna be a topic on some coaches calls after the first week is like, "Hey, everyone, just so you know, if you hit 67, your crowd is going to go crazy.
Yeah.
It's nothing else besides that. It's just the number. Just be prepared.
I love the schools that have the in arena DJs now that are leaning into it. Like they
Mhm.
when they're playing, all kind of different music when 67 hits, and they got it up on the jumbotron, and it's yeah, you might as well have fun with it.
Exactly. Exactly. Give the people what they want.
Absolutely.
All right, BMac. As always, we could talk for another couple hours, couple years. But I think we'll call it there. Got to a good number of our past week's topics. Shared a couple of our qualms, perhaps, and got to some actual basketball. So I will I'll stop it there. Folks, make sure that you are following us at Her Hoop Stats on whatever social platform you use. Subscribe. We've got all sorts of newsletters coming out, frequent breakdowns on conferences, specific games, all of that fun stuff. You can
Ooh,
find yes,
Chelsea's poll. Don't know what it's going to be called yet. Chelsea Late has a poll newsletter coming out about the top 25 tomorrow. So look for that in the newsletter.
that's tomorrow. Okay, yes, excellent. I knew that she had that coming out this week, but I couldn't remember the day. So I'm glad that you're on top of things. I will be certainly ready for that one. You can find me at JSteyz, JSTEYZ on again whatever platform you're on. Get get you some of BMac. BMac's always got some good thoughts out there at BMac 1435. Folks, will be back daily here on the Her Hoop Stats podcast every weekday, and we appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next time.